Hello, greetings and welcome from wherever you are joining us today. I'm Nate Huff, Senior Vice President of Miles Partnership. We're a full service marketing company focused in the travel and tourism space. Alongside me is Bettina Garibaldi, Senior Vice President here with the travel sector at Ketchum, a global strategic communications consultancy. And it's our collective pleasure to welcome you to today's webinar, Reimagining Major Travel Experiences. Like many of you who are joining us today, Bettina and I have found ourselves up to our ears in COVID-19 related travel webinars. So our goal today is to bring together a collection of new perspectives that really get down to those actual building blocks of the travel and the destination experience. And today our panelists will share their own brand's experiences navigating that consumer relationship through COVID, but perhaps more importantly, the concrete steps their businesses are taking to begin operating in what we're calling our new normal. Forgive what is already a very tired cliche. Before we get started, Bettina and I did want to acknowledge what is happening here in the US and really around the world in response to the killing of George Floyd. His senseless death is a sobering reminder that we still have a long way to go together to create a more just and equitable world. That challenge existed before and it will exist after COVID-19. And I know we all hope that some of the hard lessons we've learned during the pandemic can be put to work to address these fundamental and extremely persistent societal issues. A little quick housekeeping before Bettina introduces our guests and gets us started. Please feel free to submit your questions for our panelists through the webinar interface over the course of the next hour. I'll be keeping an eye on those. We'll also be recording this webinar, so if you need to drop off early or even better, feel so inspired by the content that you want to share it with your colleagues, you'll be able to do so. The webinar will also be able to be found on Miles Partnership's COVID-19 Communication Center, which also includes a curation of additional resources, COVID-19 related data, other items to help destinations as well as travel businesses navigate this current crisis. These resources can also be sent directly to you and your teams by either Bettina or myself as well. So Bettina?
Great. All right, well, thanks Nate. It's my pleasure to be here as well. We have helped many destinations and travel brands amidst COVID, and as we sort the actions that stakeholders of this industry should be taking today from a communications perspective. And the truth is, we're all figuring this out together, right? We know for certain that there's nothing usual about this new life or what's happening to the tourism industry right now, and there aren't any set rules or playbook. So right now, honestly, the right answer is constantly shifting too. So as an industry, we can't be limited by that thinking of the past or the tried and true, right? So, but there are several practical principles that will help put the industry in a better place as we rebound. So with us today are incredible minds and representatives from the airline, resorts, sports entertainment, attraction industries, who will share best practices that they're putting into place for their respective businesses. So I'll introduce Eric Adone. He is the Senior Vice President of the Americas for Qatar Airways, one of the world's best airlines. He has been in aviation his entire career, and he's responsible for bringing strategy and vision of Qatar Airways to life in the Americas. He oversees all commercial strategy and partnerships and alliances in the region, and is working closely with headquarters in Doha. We also have Adam Stewart. He is Deputy Chairman of Sandals Resorts International. So the company founded by his father, Gordon Butch Stewart, and owns and operates the world's most recognized luxury all-inclusive resorts in the Caribbean, including adult couple-only Sandals Resorts and the family-friendly Beaches Resorts. Then we've got Stephen Bervetria. He oversees Giants Enterprises. So it's the entrepreneurial arm of the San Francisco Giants for any MLB fans out there. It's one of the top hospitality, event, entertainment, and sports consultancy teams in the world. And he's dedicated to developing new ventures beyond the MLB franchise, in addition to increasing the use of Oracle Park, Pier 48, Lot A, etc. And last but not least, Wesley Cullen. She is the general manager of Casa Bacardi in Puerto Rico. Her has been bringing people together. She worked with international touring for WWE. She ran an 18,000 concert arena. She relaunched an iconic hotel and now works for the Bacardi brand homes portfolio, welcoming people to that rum paradise for fun, education, and community. So that's a quick, brief introduction of our four amazing panelists. But before jumping in to hear their great insights, we wanted to give each one of them the opportunity to just say a quick hello and share with all of us what is that one thing that they're each looking forward to doing, or a place that they're looking forward to visiting once all this subsides. So Wesley, we'll start with you.
Cool. Well, I'm looking forward to travel, of course, and I have a new destination that I can't wait to visit, which is Mongolia. And I can thank this virtual time for that, and that I don't think that it wasn't on my list, and I didn't know anybody there before lockdown, but I was invited to participate in a virtual conference that occurred by men organized in Mongolia, and now I have friends there, and I'm super interested to visit, and I can't wait. So it's one of the new positive travel plans that has come out of this time of not being able to travel.
Great. Stephen, how about you? Yes, Stephen.
Hi.
I'm not hearing. There you go.
It's going to be travel as well, and I think traveling with my family would be terrific. I really do miss it, and especially now, summer beginning and school ending, we're really going to miss family travel this summer. So we're going to have to be creative. I actually miss an airport, which I can't believe. I'm saying that, but I'm ready to go to any airport. Just any airport would be terrific right now. So thank you.
And Adam, we'll kick it over to you.
Yeah, I think all of us are missing travel right now. In my world, I get on an airplane about 200 days a year, and I've never been in one place this long for any period of my life. So my wife is from the Bahamas. We take our kids on a summer vacation to the Exumas every year, and I would, that's what I'm dreaming for and yearning for right now. As soon as we get back to work and get our teams back to work and start welcoming our customers back, I'd love to take a summer holiday, and the kids are driving us all nuts. So we got to get them out the house.
That sure is true. And Eric?
Well, as you will see by my accent, I'm French, so obviously I want to go home. I want to see my family and have a big meal with all my family in Paris.
Great. Well, thank you all so much. Well, we'll get started and kicking it off. And obviously we all know that the consumer mindset is shifting day by day, and there's more and more appetite to get out again, right? As we've just heard, we've all been secluded, and we have that itch. But obviously health and safety is on everyone's minds, rightfully so. And navigating COVID these past few months has been a bit different, to say the least. And we've spoken to our destination and travel brand clients, and we've sounded like a broken record on this topic, so apologies. But getting that tone right and reassessing your messaging and getting creative to break through as well, but choosing the right messengers and doing and not just saying has been critical in these past few months. And one thing that I do want to point out is collaborating to rise together as an industry, because there is that old age, phrase that, in the food industry, right? Food safety shouldn't be a competitive advantage. What that means is if no one does well within the food industry and consumers think that the food supply is unsafe, then no one's going to do well. So obviously, as the tourism industry strives to regain its footing, we should adopt that similar mindset. So that's why we're happy to be hosting this today, because embracing a collective, mutually beneficial and coordinated approach. And these are all the building blocks to the traveler experience. So it is true that a rising tide does lift all boats. So to that end, I am going to kick it over to our panelists to share how they've been managing the last few months and looking for those targeted opportunities that surround their business and help instill that traveler confidence that we know travelers are seeking. Because just because it's been off limits doesn't necessarily mean that the customer experience they long for should be out of mind either. So we'll start off with Eric. I'll kick it off with you, as obviously the traveler journey starts by getting there, wherever that X may be. Let's say France. Can you share with us approaches that Qatar Airways has taken to keep your customers inspired?
Okay, well, when the crisis started, the first thing we decided was actually to continue flying. We kind of felt that it was our duty to stand by our passengers and to continue operating the schedule we could operate. Obviously, we had to reduce our network, but we very quickly identified the fact that there were a lot of people who were actually left stranded all over the world. So we started this sort of repatriation program called Taking People Home, which at first was potentially ad hoc, but it became very, very, very popular. I mean, we've carried 1.8 million passengers and organized 220 charters since. It's a lot of work because you really have to work with government, with embassies. We've had to get the airspace reopened in some countries just for our charters. But it's incredibly rewarding to actually getting people back home. We repatriated 76,000 US citizens and 18,000 Canadians. It's actually quite funny that through all that crisis, we found out yesterday that we became the largest passenger airline in the world. I mean, it wasn't particularly a strategy, but that's what happened. And then, of course, there was the cargo element. We basically carrying basic necessities all around the world. We carried 1,750, the equivalent of 1,750 aircraft freighter of medical supplies all around the world. We were one of the first airlines to send 5 of them to China when the crisis started, and we had some bringing PPE equipment from China into the US as well in April. So it's been actually a very busy time. And the second stuff we had to do was basically focus on health and safety. We're lucky we are the current best airline in the world. So obviously we had our high standards were well known, but basically it was a new feeling. People wanted transparency on cleaning processes. So we were the first airline to do a video on cleaning our aircraft and how we disinfect it. It's sparking the trend of cleaning video from other airlines. Actually, it's always nice to be copied. But on top of that, we're lucky. We have a very young fleet, less than 5 years, so really top-notch health air filtration system, which is essential in the pandemic. We've had to explain how we were cleaning and packing silverware and all the blankets. We have strict biosecurity screening of our crew, and we operate our hub airport in Doha. So we can make sure that we have the best in-class cleaning standards in our hub as well as on board our aircraft. And lastly, it was about paying it forward to healthcare workers. We gave 100,000 tickets to frontline healthcare professionals worldwide. It was a thank you to their heroic work. We had an absolutely overwhelming response. 7 million people applied. So now we gave those 100,000 tickets, and people are starting to actually plan their vacations, which is great.
Great. Thank you, Eric. We know that through obviously our work as your public relations agency that Qatar Airways hasn't necessarily stopped flying. And beyond those serious hygiene measures in place, even before COVID, it's interesting to see how your brand thought of other ways and other ways to communicate, to go above and beyond, and identifying those specific differentiators and elevating them the right way, of course, to stand apart and continue to be top of mind for your customer base. So then we'll move on, and obviously getting there, we've just covered. And then once you get where you're going, you're staying somewhere if you're not staying with family. So I'll turn it over to Adam to share his perspective when it comes to resorts and what he's been doing at his properties.
Thank you, Bettina, and it's great to have everyone on this webinar today. So, you know, in the Caribbean is effectively completely connected by air service and air travel. Many of us were watching the Corona pandemic as it moved through in December, coming through into January. But it really wasn't until sort of the middle of February that I think a lot of us in the Caribbean started to understand just how devastating this could be to the global travel industry. And then with the effective shutdown of the airlines came the eventuality of closing borders in the Caribbean. So in the first time in 60 years, we've, in effect, since air travel and Caribbean tourism, we had to close our borders. Closing our borders then led to, you know, what do we do with all our team members? In the Caribbean, there are 30 million travelers a year that come to the Caribbean. We're the world's most tourism-dependent region on the planet. And many of our countries don't have welfare programs. So we started out having to find subsistence programs nationally, working with our governments on how we keep food on the table for our tourism workers and the linkages and those affected by this. So we started at a very nationalistic level. In our company, we were able to retain all of our team members for the last 90 days, care packages, etc. And then we started communicating simultaneously with our customers. So, you know, we are a 5-star luxury leisure product in the all-inclusive segment. And we had a lot of customers that come to us for the curiosity of travel. And Sandals sells the concept of love. Beaches is all about families. And many people were just about getting ready to go on this dream vacation or come back home. And we had to start the communication with them. And that's one of the things that I think we learned out of this. We had vague information. We weren't able to give hard timelines as to when people were able to come back. It's connected to the airline industry. And then we launched our Sandals State of Mind social media and marketing campaign, where once we realized that we were going to be closed for more than a couple of weeks, we started taking Sandals into the consumers' homes. So everything from cooking shows to reggae concerts and our DJs, really pushing it back into the consumer's home to say, look, if you can't be with us down here in the Caribbean, we'll come to you. And, you know, everything from cocktail mixes, which you can see on here, videos, candlelight dinners. We had the perfect bubble bath, Sandals style in people's homes. And we just kept this program going. Over half of our customers are repeat clients that come back year after year, and they wanted a taste of Sandals at home. So we had a bunch of fun and competitions. And then, of course, we have not just our consumers, but we have our travel agents and travel partners. So we had a bunch of webinars that we set up. We actually crashed our own network because we had so many people coming on board to train them and educate them on what's new with Sandals. We've taken the opportunity to do renovations and upgrades. So we have just been nonstop communicating, sharing any information that we can. And we're looking forward to getting everybody back down here in the Caribbean.
Great, thanks, Adam. Obviously, bringing the experiences into the homes for people when they could not go there has been obviously a very, very proven successful way to stay top of mind and help that traveler keep dreaming, right? What they're longing for. And in fact, we've recently conducted a pulse survey among travel journalists and their readers, and they noted that their readers actually, in fact, do still want to receive that type of information despite the realities of actually going there in person are coming closer, right, to all our realities. But it's a 60-40 split still of being able to provide this content to them when they're missing it the most. And then you add the fact that now they'll actually be able to go too. So it's going to be interesting to see how the consumer, starts to absorb even more of a brand that you've been putting out for them. Obviously, we've seen as we've worked together with you as your agency, it's about keeping it fresh and different and standing apart, which is exactly what Sandals has been doing, which is incredible. Obviously, gatherings is something that we love to do, and with friends or family, and it takes creativity to engage your customer base virtually through a monitor, which is we've been doing all along. We're all getting kind of tired of this screen interaction, but I'll turn it over to Stephen now to share what the MLB has been doing, which is the epitome of gathering people at stadiums. And curious to hear your thoughts, Stephen, on how you've been keeping your fan base engaged.
Thank you so much, and appreciate being having this opportunity today. So, we really look at ourselves as more than just a sports team. I think we think of ourselves in the sports business, in the travel business, in the meetings of business, in the events business, in the entertainment business. And so we have a lot of verticals that our business falls into, and so we have a lot of different audiences that we're speaking to and with in all ways. And so first, perhaps I'll address our friends, the meeting planners, the event professionals, who really are valued partners of ours. And this technology that we have access to right now in the world is incredible, and I think we really try to utilize it for to our benefit and allow an opportunity where we can embrace it during this really challenging crisis. And so what we've done is really a word listening campaign, and we talked to our clients who had events and who had things already booked, and we wanted to hear from them, and we didn't care about getting them rescheduled tomorrow or worrying about the cancellation fees. We wanted to hear how they're doing, how can we help, and how can we work together, really to be partners. And we're in this for the long term. The team's 135 years old. We're not going anywhere, and we're not short-sighted in what our business is. So first of all, with communicating frequently, and also being fun about it. And so I think a great opportunity is our Gotham Club, which is a really great part of our business. It's a private membership club. We have a very large. This is the most. If you're the Uber fan, you're probably in the Gotham Club. And the Giants started in 1883. Our original name were the Gothams. We were in New York, and these people are really. And I say these people, these fans really want to engage at the highest level. And so we have essentially every day of the week, we have opportunities for them to engage with us. If it's right now, we had a books and baseball conversation in the last week or two. We have the opportunity to meet some of our new coaches. We have the first female coach in Major League Baseball, Alyssa Nakin. So we were thrilled to have her as one of our panelists recently. And it's just giving them content that they couldn't find in the sports section of the newspaper, or just searching on the web and having a conversation just like we're having today. And this has been really helpful as we want to stay connected. And I think that is obviously a common theme. These Chalk Talks, that's what we call our Wednesday night series, which is really a terrific way to create virtual events with our broadcasting team. They're very familiar. The voices are very familiar. Some of them won, numerous awards. John Miller is legendary for that soothing voice, and he has the opportunity every Wednesday night. We have them talking, and they're just talking virtually through these Zoom calls, and introducing us to our players, talking about what's going on in the world, and hearing back from our fans. And it's really an important part of where we are. And then we also want to have fun, and we've decided dedicated Fridays to kind of our Orange Fridays, and that's another opportunity through we own the TV station, our regional sports network, and so we're able to replay some of our best games and a couple of our worst, but they might be very memorable, and allow our fans to watch games maybe they forgot about, or they wanted to watch. For example, last week we had Posey's first walk-off home run, which happened in 2013. You're probably not going to find that play-to-play anywhere else. So we presented that opportunity last Friday, and we make it kind of a party as much as we can over these new communication, ways to communicate with our fans. So I think staying engaged is critical. Being relevant is really important, and that's where we are.
All right, great. Thanks, Stephen. I mean, I know everyone's missing baseball right now, but all for good measure, of course. But it's as if COVID has given us an opportunity as marketers to just be extra creative in finding those ways to engage with our consumers that perhaps we wouldn't have otherwise, or maybe perhaps now we'll continue doing once baseball comes back. So it's super interesting to see how it's going to be impacting the future. Related, obviously, attractions that destinations have had to get creative but responsible with their efforts while we've all been sheltering at home. Wesley, I know that you've been working a lot with Bacardi and doing a lot to support the local tourism community as well, while trying to remain true to your brand voice. Could you share some examples with the audience here of what you've been putting into place?
Of course. Saludos from sunny Puerto Rico, everybody. We hope that you can visit sometime soon. We are waiting. So I think, when this started, it was all chaos. It was all new for us. And one of the things that's nice about being in a company like Bacardi that is 158 years now, is being clearly defined about who the company is and what that culture is. So the core of the strategy here is putting consumers at the heart. And how we do that during these times has certainly been an adaptation process, but it hasn't been a change in strategy. And so it's a good reminder for everybody, go back to your core, what can you offer and what can you do there? So the first thing for us is to not go it alone, right? And again, this is a family-owned company. We treat it that way, and our partners are part of that family. So here, we're very lucky that Discover Puerto Rico, our destination marketing organization, is all about meeting consumers where they are, as they say. And then I've worked with Ketchum and with Miles on looking at that. So one of the things that was an initiative I really love that came from that insight were the virtual puzzles. This is certainly not something we've done before. This is from the Discover Puerto Rico page, and puzzles were popular. So looking into that and saying, okay, what can we do that's different? And it's not necessarily about us and what we offer as a product, but is meeting people where they are. So that's been really nice. Similar things that are, of course, related to our brand and our attraction to what Stephen was talking about in terms of content that's been online with sessions with the master blender or with different cocktail experiences and Instagram takeovers to show what our destination's like and allow people to experience it virtually. And I think the other core thing we've done is not go alone, it's collaborate and really focus on what value can we offer and what problems can we solve now, right? It's not necessarily the time for selling. And I think we're hearing that from everybody and all really good companies that it's nice to know more about. So we've done that in a few ways that I can share examples. I think most people in the travel and hospitality industry were not expecting to be able to contribute or wouldn't have thought we could contribute so much to a global crisis. And we've heard examples from the others that have. Bacardi got to be a key player around the globe in producing material for sanitizer. And that was really gratifying to be part of a company that could do that. Now, as a visitor attraction, that's not what we do. That's who we're part of the company that does. We welcome people to the place that makes the alcohol, including sanitizer sometimes now. So, we're rum experiences, we're events, we're rum education. So focusing on those people, our different consumers and audiences that we care about so much, saying what problem can we solve for them? So for the traveler, obviously, we've seen great engagement on wish I was there content, and we've heard some of those other examples. Here, we have amazing hosts, as I'm sure everybody in the industry on the line does, and our visitors remember them and love them. So sharing some of that human interaction and those memories from when they're here and connecting people around the world, sharing their memories from when they were here has been really, really nice. Of course, we offer cocktail content and we've launched virtual mixology classes. I think that's a given. And then also, and I would encourage other people to do this, we saw really nice engagement once we were over the initial shock of the lockdown and what was happening, not forgetting about the other major occasions that are occurring and how we can contribute to that conversation and inspire people. So Mother's Day, hopefully a lot of people did things as well as Earth Day is something that we're very passionate about with our commitment to sustainability. We had a whole beautiful program that we were going to launch about recycling glass. We had to put that on hold, but we decided to still share the video about how rum bottles are upcycled into cement blocks, and got really good engagement and feedback from people, and just felt satisfied to be able to inspire them in that way. Again, it doesn't necessarily come back to our core product, always related to who we are and our brands, of course, because that's the voice that we have, and for Puerto Rico as well. But focusing on that of, how do we help and what more can we do? For bartenders, and I think everyone will mention this example because I'm sure everybody on this line has done something to help in their community. Cardi is a large company, so it's a $4 million commitment and more. From Casa, we launched a t-shirt where the sales will go to support bartenders. There, I would say the learning is communicating about it. We're sometimes shy, but as a consumer and as an employee, we really want to know, and no gesture is too small. So to share those, and we've had nice feedback there. And then events clients, education, as was mentioned. So letting, especially our meeting planner partners, they need work. We want to support them. They're our partners. So education there as well, and working with them on all of the new things and the new reality that we're part of. And then webinars like this, where we get to be with partners like you, learn about what other people are doing, and get in touch with everyone who's joined us. So it's a lot. I can share a lot more, but I know we want to move on as well. But yeah, there's really focusing on collaboration, adding value, and what problems we can solve.
Thanks, Wesley. And yeah, it's been a true pleasure to work with Casa Bacardi through the partnership with Discover Puerto Rico on some of that messaging through this crisis. But turning in the second half of this, hopefully to some much brighter days ahead, and looking more at how we navigate the reopening process. So the panelists are going to come back and talk a little bit how each of them are approaching that, both from the perspective of working with other governmental and organizational partners, but also through that redefinition of customer experience and the messaging of that experience that's required to move forward. So once again, we'll start where the traveler starts, at the airport and on the airplane, which I also, like some of the other panelists, am desperate to get back on. It's part of my life as well. So I'll turn it back over to you, Eric, to talk a little bit about how your company's handling that.
Well, the biggest challenge at the moment is basically to restoring customer confidence in air travel. And we very quickly realized that it was quite difficult for people to actually plan anything, plan ahead, because of, nobody knows what's going to happen in the coming months or weeks. So we put in place the most generous and flexible policy in the industry. People can basically buy a ticket and they can change the date anytime they want, as many times they want. There's no fees. They can even change the destination within some parameters or miles, basically. And if they cannot travel, if really they cannot travel, then the money of the spent is put into a travel voucher for 110% of the value, and that voucher is valid for 2 years. And if they really do not want the travel voucher, they can swap it for miles as well. Of course, if the flight itself is cancelled, which has nothing to do with a voluntary change, then we can offer a refund. So it was important for us to feel that people could actually make plans, book tickets, but would not basically be held to it forever. The second thing, because we stick back to the customer confidence, we're listening to customer feedback. And basically, it's about upgrading our safety measures and a notch, and introducing social distancing into our product. So what we've announced recently is our cabin crew now wear full PPE suits, they wear a mask, they wear gloves, they wear safety goggles. It's not particularly glamorous, but it's part of that duty of care we have. The safety of passengers and employees is paramount. We've asked our passengers to wear mandatory masks, and we put large bottles of hand sanitizer in the airplane so that everybody can actually disinfect their hands as many times as they want without any restriction. We're quite lucky. I mean, we have an amazing business class product, which is probably definitely actually the most appropriate one for social distancing. It's a suite with a door, so there's really no risks of interface with anybody else. Once you're there, you're in your cocoon, you're really protected. But what we had to change was, whilst our product was really based on interaction with our crew, we actually changed, particularly on the meal service. Instead of having a table setup where we can bring bring the bread, the salt, the pepper, the water, the tea lights, we actually now use a tray. It doesn't change the quality and the options you have for food, but it changed the service in that respect. We felt that it was an expectation from our customers. And in terms of our hub in the Doha airport, we're introducing those very cool disinfecting robots that sort of all over the airport with UV lights that actually destroy virus and germs, and so that's quite unique actually. We have advanced thermal screening for everyone arriving into the airport, transiting and boarding. And we've also had a big program of systematically disinfecting bags arriving, coming, and all the baggage carousel as well. And lastly, we've integrated social distancing on the ground at boarding, at check-in. We've totally changed all our processes just to make sure that people would feel basically that we were listening to them. And the last point really, we decided to be an enabler. We decided that we would continue flying and be the airline that continues flying. So we've reintroduced some flights to some destination wherever we are allowed to actually operate. It's basically being agile and adapting to circumstances, geopolitical and so on. So at the end of May, we flew to 40 destinations. By the end of June, we should be flying to around 80 destinations. Very excited. We are reopening JFK on the 19th of June. It's a strong schedule with daily frequencies or sometimes more. We're currently operating only out of Dallas and Chicago, but we'll operate as well from so JFK and from July, Boston, Los Angeles, and Washington. And it's a way also for us to link our hub, Doha hub, to all the big partner hubs that we have in the world. So London with BA, Chicago, Dallas with American, Hong Kong with Cathay, Sao Paulo with LATAM. So yes, we want to continue flying. We think that it's important to actually let people travel if they want to, and we hope they do. I do. So somebody else must do too.
Definitely me. I'm looking for that Tampa flight. I haven't seen it yet, but I'll wait for it. So in terms of looking at getting to the destination, and I think it's really interesting what you spoke to around sort of how privacy and safety in some ways go together. I think, Adam, you can really speak to that in terms of how Sandals is approaching reopening and repositioning its product as well.
Sure, absolutely, and I agree with a lot of what Eric said. I think the first primary objective is to reinstill consumer confidence and let them know that those who have been with you for so many years and have enjoyed your product, that they are still safely able to cross borders and of course on resorts. So health and safety has become the new peace of mind, and we're always trying to instill safety in the mind of our consumers. So on the operations side of our hotels or resorts, we crafted what we call the Sandals Platinum Protocols, which is a new 18-point checklist, which really is all about sanitization and the things that we're going to do on a resort. Now, for my company, we sell a product for two people in love in the Sandals brand. We're Caribbean, we're a Caribbean family, we're a Caribbean company. We naturally have from an architectural point of view, a lot of open air spaces. Big Caribbean gables and the trade winds of the Caribbean blowing through. We've sold privacy as a brand feature since 1981 and connections. So you have two top tables, private candlelight dinners on the beach. But as a feature of our product, we have a lot of inclusions from transfers to and from the airports. So our buses are limited to about 40% of the capacity that they would typically have in there to keep social distancing going. This slide here depicts and shows you all the different things that we're doing to sanitize the room. So something like cleaning the air conditioning units, which are not central air conditioning units, but standalone per room after every visit, which typically, if you had done every 30 days, you'd be amazing. And every 90 days in hospitality is about normal. So we're doing them after every single checkout. The room is going to have a feature where there's a door seal on it after it's sanitized every day. In hospitality, what you find are people check, while you're out on the beach, people go in your room and they put chocolate dipped strawberries in there, or they put some letter from the general manager. All of the things, this is kind of the great acceleration. All the things that we should have done many years ago in global hospitality, we've thought through. So there will be one entrant. All things that go in the room go in at the same time, clean, sanitized. The strawberries, the letters from the GM, the promotions, anything that's a keepsake or we're leaving in the room on a daily basis. So when the consumer comes back, there's a seal on the door and they know that it's been sealed top to bottom. And as our brand, we market these amazing rooms that we call Love Nest Suites. It's all about the privacy. So it's about the individual space. The peace of mind comes in many ways, and it's about making sure that people know and our consumers know that when they're in our spaces, that they're safe, that they're, our resorts were built for social distancing for many, many years. So the platinum protocols are really, as I say, the great accelerator to do the different things on a day-to-day basis. We bypass check-in. It's all digital. All restaurant menus are now on the app, so we don't have to hand you menus. And that list kind of goes on and on of any touch point. We've just taken that away. But we're still doing scuba diving. We're still doing 8,000 weddings a year in our resort chain, and it's all the little touch points. We're just making sure that the consumer doesn't have any kind of cross-contamination or threat of that.
Sure. My honeymoon, I'm not going to say how many years ago, but was at a Sandals, and these pictures definitely make me want to get back to it. So thank you, Adam. I'm going to go over to Stephen now as a fellow Giants fan. I'm eager to get back to the ballpark, but I know with a business built on large groups of people and large events and spaces, I imagine you guys are having to really take a new look at how you put things together and present experiences for your fan base as well.
Absolutely, and thank you for being a fan. I have to say that first, so thank you for being a fan. And it's two parts again, and I think it all circles around readiness, and both for the destination and for baseball. And so we need to be part of that conversation, and our strategy has been to take leadership positions in our community, within our state, and within the country on how do we get ready to welcome people back to our little community. And I think it's been critical to have engagement, and I encourage everybody on this Zoom to participate, with U.S. Travel or with your destination and your DMO, because being ready, having your destination ready to welcome back travelers when we can travel back in mass is going to be critical. And you'll see there's a link up on this slide. It's a great video that San Francisco did. They called it One Day Soon, and it was really a way for people to feel reassured that yes, we're getting ready for your return. And if you have time to take a look at that, it's pretty good. Regarding baseball, I mean, I think it's really been critical to recalibrate our corporate sponsors and their investment. I mean, they're a big part of how we can deliver baseball and manage expectations with them. So we're getting ready. We're talking to our sponsors. We're talking to our partners. We're talking to our players, our staff, and going through the safety considerations, because at the end of the day, it's ultimately about everybody feeling comfortable and safe in whatever environment that we do or are able to create. And that's really, really critical. And I think reimagining what that fan experience will look like in our venue and in our city is going to be really really important. And and finally, I think ways we've already reimagined exercise. For example, here you have a yoga event that we were able to do at the ballpark, socially distant, and it really worked. It was a terrific opportunity for people to get on the field, which they normally would not have that ability to do. And yet it was a way that we've been creative in thinking about how we can do more events like this in the future that work for those small to medium-sized groups.
Sure. Well, as a fellow partner with the San Francisco Travel, we definitely appreciate your support of that organization as well as U.S. Travel. And I definitely want to say last, but definitely not least, Wesley, I'm going to invite you back here again. I'm sure you're looking forward to crafting spirits and events versus hand sanitizer as we open back up. So talk a little bit about how your brand, both in Puerto Rico, but also beyond, is looking at rethinking those very different visitor experiences that Bacardi ultimately fulfills for visitors.
Indeed. So I love people. I don't want to stand between the people of questions and us talking. So I will go quickly. I have a lot of examples I would love to share and invite anyone to get in touch. And I'll be happy to share more. Particularly because I think the attractions industry, right? Like we travel so that we can enjoy the plane. We all miss airports, stay at spectacular places, but ultimately to go do things. And what we go do is so varied. And so how we reopen as a sector is really complicated. It's really diverse. So if you think about this goes from transportation companies to everything there is to do. Puerto Rico, that might be kayaking on a bioluminescent bay, salsa class, rum classes, all of this. And the first thing is to evaluate, can you offer a quality experience safely? And in some cases, the answer is no. So for a kayaker, single use, disinfected after each time, it's outdoors, maybe it's not so complicated. For something like Angel's Envy Bourbon, which is one of our brand homes, part of why you visit is to get to see what's behind the scenes. So here we have Adam, our host, letting us try from the fermentation tank. And in the other photo is with Wes Henderson, who founded the company and is the master blender, who just happened to be walking by. Not safe for the visitors or for the company to receive them right now. So it's hard for us, but we adapt. There's retail and it will be phased. Another one of our collection properties is the Terrazza Martini in Milan. Here, and I think that a lot of attractions have really amazing locations, right? So it's to think again, how can we reinvent ourselves and what can we offer, even if there's no money involved right now? So that's Marco in the photo when I got to visit. It is on the Central Plaza in Milan with a spectacular view, but it's at the roof of that building. So getting people in an elevator, welcoming the public, complicated. One of the things they've done is become a stage. So some of the top artists in Italy can go to this iconic location and broadcast music. This is not part of the business plan, and it's a collaboration. But again, I share it as an idea that it's something that people might be able to do until they're able to welcome visitors. At Casa Bacardi, we are lucky that we have an amazing waterfront location with a huge lawn. There you go. Oh, it's so beautiful. And what we do is want to make people happy. So what do? We know people want to get together. If you've got open space, you've got potential. We're a trusted brand. People used to get annoyed with us about our safety protocols. So I think that will now be a highlight that we're able to offer. But it's meeting people where they are. It's putting consumers at the heart. What can we do to make them happy? So we can certainly do some picnics. And then to wrap it up quickly, I'll comment on safety as well. I think here it's about the people and it's about the systems. That's been mentioned a little bit. The people are crucial and everything that we all know that we have to do, but we should not depend only on that. So once we go inside, it's been mentioned the UV, the HVAC systems. How do you show people and how do you just ensure that everyone working and everyone visiting at all times is as safe as possible? So we've selected a system called Casper. It's like the friendly ghost. You don't see it, but it works. Happy to share information with anyone who wants to reach out. But really focusing on that and getting people back together again, because that is what we're all in this for, I think. So I'll wrap it up with that. I have a lot more I'd love to share, but happy to answer questions or communicate with anybody who wants to get in touch until you can come visit us in Puerto Rico.
All right. Thanks so much, Wesley. It's super insightful to hear the synergies, but the differences and approaches from different parts of the world too, and maximizing your real estate and how to do that creatively. So we'll now jump into a Q&A. As Nate mentioned, if you haven't already, feel free to submit a question through the chat box and we will route them to our panelists. But to quickly kick off the Q&A section, I do want to ask our panelists to share, if there is that one key marketing or communications best practice that they have done that either they're currently implementing or they're planning to implement in this new era, right? That will require a brand new approach to the customer experience. What is that one key takeaway in this practice? So Wesley, we will start off with you this time.
So I think for us, we're all about people, bringing a brand to life. It's the humanizing aspect, and again, what we've been doing in communication of sharing our humans, as it were, not just our product, and building, continuing to fortify those relationships, because at the end of the day, you have to trust the people that are hosting you. And I'll take a moment here to comment not just on our health and safety, but feeling safe in all ways and welcome in all ways, right? There's a lot going on in the world around that as well. In Puerto Rico, we've really focused in the last few years and worked with both of you, your agencies, on being a very welcoming destination and ensuring everybody who comes here knows that they are welcome and feel safe. So we'll continue to focus on that, on sharing on that, but not only sharing about masks and sanitization, but about unity and wanting everyone to feel safe and welcome here.
Great, thank you. And Stephen, any thoughts?
I think focusing on relationships is critical, and across the board, no matter if it's a fan, if it's an industry colleague, staying in touch and helping be part of the solution to this crisis is really, really important.
Mm-hmm. Eric, your perspective?
I think for us it's transparency. I mean, people want to know what's behind the scene nowadays. I mean, I'd never wanted to see a kitchen when I used to go to restaurant, but now unfortunately that's the truth. So we have to adapt our messages as we have adapted our products, and just make sure that we can actually be fully transparent to rebuild customer confidence in air travel.
Great. And Adam? Yeah,
I think communication is an essential word, and tourism is a big ecosystem, whether it is gastronomic experience, entertainment, retail, all the inputs, entertainment, all the features of tourism. It really is one huge ecosystem people travel to because they crave experiences. The tourist boards, the border controls, to the restaurants, to the villas, the transportation companies, we all had to get on the same page. We all had to put our differences aside, and we all had to have a round table and say, look, this only works if it works for everyone. And ultimately that becomes the meat on the bone that we then re-communicate back to the consumer to give peace of mind. So tourism is one big ecosystem. It's about partnership, and then it's about inspiring confidence back to our customer bases.
We've got some good questions coming in, and I'm going to combine a couple of them for the sake of time. So this really, we could go same order if we want. There's questions here around how do we ensure cleanliness measures are still in effect after the pandemic and are not downsized necessarily in the interest of cost or expediency. And then related to that, naturally, these things cost money. So how do we deal with those added expenses as a business, whether that's reduced capacity or increased operational expenses? So Wesley, you want to start with that one?
Sure. So consistency of it, right? I think that's a valid, very big concern. There's that saying of inspect what you expect. So certainly as leaders, we have to do that. But I think it's also, if you at any moment start to not have the consumer or the visitor at your heart, hopefully you do it for selfish reasons, and that is not what should motivate us. But everyone's got to be part of the leadership on this, right? We're all leaders, and that's what'll make it consistent. But certainly also just having procedures and not defaulting to assumption or benefit of the doubt. In this case, it has to be really ingrained and there. About the costs, and that was one of the things that I didn't have a chance to get into. It's really complicated, and that's everybody's individual situation, right? I see some businesses are adding a surcharge. As a consumer, preferable if it's not necessary, but willing to pay it if you can, and adds to that. And hopefully we'll start to see that as the scale of production of these needed materials goes up, access to them and the cost of it goes down a little bit. But I would expect we'll probably start to see some prices go up. And if not, just companies that are able to cover it will do so to get the footfall and offer the experience.
Okay. Stephen, do you want to jump in there?
I can't really add any more than Wesley just stated. I mean, I think it's universal. I mean, I think I agree with her comments.
Okay. How about you, Eric, especially with a business that's really built on sort of, scaled yield and so forth? Eric, can you hear us?
Yes,
Oh.
sorry, I'm back online. But I
Okay.
didn't hear, if there was a question, I'm sorry, I didn't hear it.
The question was just around how do you, deal with the additional costs of safety protocols and kind of deal with those on an ongoing basis following the pandemic?
Well, you just don't have any choice anyway. I mean, it's part of the business. I mean, there's I guess you have sort of different costs that sort of balance themselves up in the long run. I actually don't think it's about cost. I think it's really about making sure that we do what's right and that we listen to what people want and deliver.
Okay. Anything to add, Adam?
Yeah, I think the goal of every business is to build a brand, and brands are predetermined quality. And with that predetermined quality, there is an expectation. And if you're in this for the long haul, this is a cost of doing business today. This is now a new normal reality. You can't run the business on a balance sheet exclusively. If you're going to retain and have that retention in brand and the expectation of what comes with your brand, then this is now a feature that we have to keep on the table. Inspiring confidence, keeping people safe. And you're going to have to find a way. There's no magic to the balance sheet. The money's got to come from somewhere. You're going to have to find a way. If your cash flows are down and your expenses are up, you're going to have to get creative in how you find those savings. We went through this in the last economic downturn. And by having it affect the consumer on the front end is the wrong approach. You have to save it inefficiencies on the back office side of the business, overheads, things that the customers don't touch. But the consumer's experience should go down, should not go down whatsoever. As a matter of fact, this is an opportunity, as I say, the ultimate accelerator to do things that a lot of people probably should have been doing a long time ago.
That's a great point. I know we are coming up tight here on time. I will note that there is a comment in here saying that Wesley, your stock prices should be rising based on the amount of Bacardi I've consumed in the last 11 weeks. So I mean, there's one positive here. I think, another, if we have time for one more quick question, that I think I would throw out there is, in terms of relationships that have been important, like if you were to name sort of one group that you've worked with over the past 11 weeks that you hadn't thought you would necessarily work with in the past, and that you are going to continue that relationship with, who would that be? And I'll just go down the line of my cameras here. Wesley?
Oh gosh, on the spot, I don't know. We've worked with so many people, and we're all about collaboration. So I would say I did not expect to be working with any of the fashion designers that we work with on making masks. So some of the same people we really try to support as many local businesses as possible everywhere we are, including here. So there are already a lot of relationships. I can't think of a new one, but we're certainly collaborating in very different ways.
How about you, Adam?
When I woke up this year in 2020 after New Year's Eve and I had a glass of champagne bringing in a new year, I, like all of us, had no idea what we were in store for. And at no point did I think I was going to spend the last 60 days having, back-to-back Zoom meetings and WebExes with my competitors about strategizing travel and tourism in the Caribbean. So, our consumers are, they're the most critical relationship. Our team members are the most critical relationship. Our airline partners. So all of those, and of course our governments on border control and national protocols. But in order to get there, I had no idea that I was going to be sitting around the table with people that, I've been marketing against and selling against for the last 30 odd years in our company. So they've become my best friends, and we've actually even acquired a couple of hotels from them in the process. So hopefully it's a win-win.
That's great. Stephen?
I just have to go back to say I've just been so impressed with so many people that I do know and just have been able to work more closely with over the last few months. From U.S. travel and meetings means business. They have just worked so tirelessly through all of this, trying to help us get back into business. I think I have to give a little shout out to Brad Dean from Puerto Rico and all of his work with our Travel and Tourism Advisory Board. He's been doing an incredible job. And then I have to say locally, and with our governor here in the state of California, we've worked really closely together on some of the new safety protocols and trying to help the recovery in the state. I couldn't imagine, 3 or 4 months ago having the relationship that we do to really have a seat at the table, and it's really been terrific. And we just want to reopen. We want to be ready for everyone.
Okay. Any final thoughts, Eric, before we turn it back to Bettina to close it up?
Well, I mean, the travel industry, the airline industry is based on the chain of service. So it's just so wonderful to have seen how many people basically were prepared to act as normal despite what was happening outside. I was really very impressed by the commitment of the government and embassies that we've had to work with on those charters. I mean, we're talking about people who are not familiar with the complexity of some of those issues. I mean, I think the medical staff have been pretty amazing. And I don't know, for me, what I will always remember from the pandemic is the getting people home element. I mean, I don't know, there is this wonderful video of the cabin crew, Qatari cabin crew arriving in a boarding gate full of French people and everybody clapping spontaneously. And I just think it's just really, really fantastic to be able to actually get people home.
Great. All right, we are over the hour, so I do want to thank our panelists for joining us and shedding light on best practices that you've been doing to engage your audiences, and especially as we're all reimagining, these major travel experiences, which as consumers we're all seeking, right? And we're asking ourselves those questions. If you'd like a recording to share with your colleagues, please don't hesitate to reach out to either myself or Nate. And again, you can access any additional resources, including most recent media survey, et cetera, at Ketchum and Miles Partnership websites that you see there on your screen. So we thank you very, very much for attending, and please stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.